All right, welcome back. This is Chopping It Up with Ngaio, brought to you by juicyfields.io. Juicy Fields, an easy and interesting way to get involved in the global cannabis investment community. My name is Ngaio Belam, and it's my show. That's why it's called Chopping It Up with Ngaio. And what we do is I call my homies and we chop it up. And with us on this particular episode, we have a team. Father and daughter combination. They are the producers of the Emerald Cup and cannabis activists from way back and a friend to small farmers and small animals. And they're both very awesome people. I've worked with them for years and years and years. Please welcome Tim Blake and Taylor Blake.
Hey, thank you, Kyle. We have been working together for years now.
Years and years and years. The Emerald Cup started in your backyard, as I understand.
Pretty much, yeah. At Area 101 in the Emerald Triangle, 10 miles north of Laytonville. Small show, and look what it's evolved into. You know, it's
now it's two events, thousands of people. You're in Santa Rosa and Los Angeles. The Los Angeles one is coming up in May.
Yes.
Yeah. What are the dates again? I should write that down.
It's May 14th. Well, May 13th, they're doing a private event with the Green Street, but it's May 14th is the day of the Green Street Festival in downtown LA.
Okay, so May 13th through the 14th, maybe even some after partying on the 15th.
Oh yeah, you're going to be with us, right?
Yeah, I'm going to be with you. Yes, please and thank you.
We have this ongoing joke inside the like our team that Tim's biggest thing that he's the most focused on is the after party. So it doesn't matter what like actual party we're throwing. It's like the after party is the thing that Tim is like the most focused in on, making sure that that is like lined up and ready to go.
That in a lot of ways is often the most important thing. And you know, the challenge with after parties for weed events, a lot of times I see this in Seattle and in Vegas and a lot of the events that you go to is people go to the big weed party and they just get faded and they're like, I'll see you at the after party. Okay. And they go home and they're like, oh, I'm going to take a disco nap and recharge. And then no. Done.
Yeah.
Well, you got to get them on the psychedelics quick. What you got to do is send them home with some psychedelics and say, look, as soon as you get there, before you get on that bed, take this little pill or take this little drop, and then you do go.
Yeah.
Better living through chemistry. That's the way. Sometimes mushrooms make me sleepy, though. I do like a little psilocybin, but a lot of times I get a little sleepy and nauseous, and then I know it's going to kick in if I can stay awake. So that's when the coffee.
No, it's got to be. The mushrooms are for early in the day. You've got to go either straight to the acid or you got to do some ecstasy. It's got to be one of those. Mushrooms are definitely not going to.
You said chopping it up, and Tim's like, "I'm going right for the chopping it up part."
We're chopping it up, man. I gotta say, when it comes to psychedelic experiences, I've only ever done. Well, I've done two. I've done the mushrooms, and I've done a little mescaline. Maybe twice in my life. I tend to avoid the LSD mostly because I like plants and I understand it's just a thing for me. Like I like coca leaves, but I don't fuck with cocaine. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
You know what? I come from the opposite end where I do love the plants, but I love the psychedelics. I mean, I don't love drugs. I don't do the cocaine. I don't do any pharmaceuticals, whatnot. But as far, I don't really do ecstasy really, but the acid nowadays is so clean and so light that, you can do one hit and you're not going to be like seeing all kinds of psychedelic stuff. You're just going to be energized for 5 hours. And so for me, it's my secret superpower weapon at 65. I can just do a one little dose of acid. I mean, I don't need to do 4 or 5 and be like staring at the walls as they fade in and out. I just want to be able to have enough energy to just bounce around. And so people are always like, how do you keep up? And I say, well, I meditate every day for the last 50 years. And then I do a little bit of acid at night.
A little bit of acid at night, a little micro dose, just enough to make the colors pop. Right. And I talk to people a lot about these psychedelic drugs. Because, I went to Electronic Daisy Carnival and I've been to some raves and some parties and I'm an old deadhead from way back. And I remind people a lot of times you have to take these psychedelics with intention. You can't just, even if the intention is just a party, right? But you can't just be out here willy-nilly doing it. You have to understand yourself first.
Yeah.
before you
Yes.
can get into it.
Well, no, it's integration for sure. I tell people definitely start off slow. But it's interesting in Ngaio. My dad committed suicide and I did a big mushroom dose. And then I really had a very challenging trip. And I didn't do any psychedelics for about 15 years. And when I came back, I was a little afraid of the acid because I had been raised with like these 500 milligram hits of acid where you're like, you do it and you're on the ground and you're hallucinating for 8 hours and that's it. And so for about a year, I was doing my little mushroom thing at these electronic parties and I was getting kind of tired, like you said, and whatnot. And people are like, man, you got to do the acid. And I said, I can't, I don't know how you guys do it. I can't really do one of those hits like I did and like be social. And they laughed and they said, no, it's not 100, it's not 500 milligrams anymore, 250s. They're like 50 milligrams. So you can do one hit like that. And all you're going to do is just feel the energy. And I did it one time and that was about 30 years ago. And there's been no turning back.
So you have a method, you have a technique, you know your dosage. I always tell people by the time you're 25, or maybe even let's call it 28, you should know which drugs, in which combination and what order will give you a pleasant evening. Right.
Well, what it is, I'll tell you what, try it sometime. Just do a little bit of mushrooms. And then as you're comfortable on that, you just do one hit acid and all you're going to feel is the ability to keep up with the kids for like 6 or 7 hours.
And my kids, he's not even implying myself either. Like I've become the old person of like our duo. Like I'm like, my favorite drug of choice is just edibles. Like I prefer just to eat some edibles, maybe like take like a little mini dab and then I'm like, I'm good, but I do love caffeine. Caffeine would be like my favorite drug of choice at a party, like a nice coffee.
Oh no, you're a kid. You're a kid. I consider anybody under, 40 a kid to me. At 65, they're all young enough to be, my kids, but they don't like being told that. So I really try to stop that because my girlfriend's under 40 and she doesn't like being called a kid either.
Your girlfriend doesn't like.
No, actually, none of them do. None of them. I call Chad, my nephew, Taylor, all of them kids, and they're like, we're not kids. We're like 38.
I have a bit in my act these days where I talk about having kids, and then I mention I don't have kids because now they're young adults, and you can't treat them like kids. Yeah. You have to treat them like younger. I mean, they're adults, but they're young adults, right? Because when you have our wealth of knowledge and experience, but yeah, it's true, and it goes so fast too, man. Did you were you surprised that you made it to 65? Taylor, were you surprised that he made it to 65?
No, because he's so resilient in so many ways. Like, I feel like he's going to live forever. Like, I feel like he'll be like the bionic man that probably becomes like part alien or something and like lives forever.
Psychedelic
but
man.
I do feel with his health compromised immune system and the health challenges that he's faced, I think that it's pretty remarkable that he still out parties many people, because I feel like that's why I used to love like the party days, but then I like stopped drinking alcohol 2 years ago, and I like a nice, like I said, like a nice coffee and like an edible and like a good night's sleep. It's like, woo, call it a day. I'm
party.
There, yeah, that's it.
Man, so, you missed it last night. I did a double espresso and took 100 milligrams and passed right the fuck out, and it was spectacular. I don't know where y'all were at. Where were y'all at?
Yeah,
but it's really inspiring. He gets me out of my comfort zone. That's for sure.
I've definitely seen Tim in full party mode at some outdoor events out in the woods, just being himself, man. It's great. It's great. You are an inspiration to all of us.
Yeah. Well, yes. You know what? There were some people in Miami this last week at Cannadelic, and I won't name them because they're actually family and friends. But of course, being in Miami, they started whooping some blow and whatnot. And then they were doing some alcohol and they were getting a little bit, just kind of spacey and out of it. And I just hit them all with about 2-3 hits of acid. And then the guy turns around and he goes, dude, that straightened me right out. And I said, I knew it would. They were all like, what just happened? And I said, I straightened you guys out.
Just smoothed out. Just gotta kind of ride the that happened to me at the EDC. I was on a moderate amount of psilocybin and some caffeine and some weed, and then somebody gave me this, was it anything? Ashwagandha?
Uh-huh.
It smoothed me right out. Like it was, I mean, it wasn't psychedelic or anything, but I just felt like smooth. You know what I mean? Like I was just in a vibe.
Ashwagandha, I put it in my smoothie a lot. It also helps like stress and like, yeah, it's like it's like it helps with calming.
Tell us more about ashwagandha, because I tried to remember it and look it up, but like tell me more about what it does again. We lost you a little bit because you're in Willits and
Oh, so
Wi-Fi's weird.
so actually, you know who got me on ashwagandha is Maya from Edibles, because we were talking about like she had like adrenal fatigue, and then she said like after she like because she was like doing a lot of caffeine or something, and so then she said that she took ashwagandha, and I wish I knew more about it in this exact second, but I know that they have it like it's you can do it in like powder form. They have it as like an additive in a lot of things, but you can also just like take it as like a supplement. So I just add it to my smoothie every morning. And it's
Well, there you
lovely.
go.
It's very
It's
relaxing.
lovely.
And
You
you know
like a
what?
very oh, go ahead, Tim.
Well, the thing about it is I want to throw in there, I've also been meditating for 50 straight years daily. So my real superpower and where I don't need much sleep and I can keep up is because I do daily meditation at least once or twice a day. And that's like, you know, a 3-4 hour nap to me. So that's really where I get it from.
So you meditate for 3 or 4 hours a day? You just sit
No, no,
still?
no, no. If you do a 20, 30 minute meditation, I start out with
Mhm.
transcendental meditation. If you're doing a proper
Can you
meditation,
float? Can you fly?
oh, I can't fly yet, but I can leave my body. A really good meditation for me is when I come back from meditation, I've been out of my body and consciousness, and I'm aware that my head is like falling over and I'm drooling, but I'm aware of it outside of my body. And so I'm having this moment where I'm aware of looking at my body and I know I'm not in my body and my body's like gone. And that is a high spiritual moment for me. It's kind of like I get chills when I do that.
You know, I haven't done a lot of meditation in a while. A lot of times, a long drive is like a meditation for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yes,
Uh,
I agree.
you know, I used to try to sit. It's been a minute. My brain moves really fast. I would sit and concentrate on candle flames and a lot of that other stuff when I was a teenager, and it definitely helped my undiagnosed ADHD, I suppose. But and in my zen like calmness and demeanor. But
Yeah, but
I
see,
haven't really like consciously done any meditating in a while, except for like I'm gonna drive to Vegas and it's gonna take 8 hours and it's gonna be glorious.
well, I'll tell you
We're
what,
gonna
if
be
you ever
listening to
got
music.
back into that in Ngaio, you can sit down. I teach people. I was doing a one syllable like om, I'm, They do it with TM. And then this Buddhist master lady, Nadananda, taught me because I was trying to teach people meditation and was having a hard time stopping their minds. So she taught me
Mhm.
to use Om Mani Padme Hum, which is a Buddhist chant for all compassion for all sentient beings. And you can just take a breath and then just do a 5-part count, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme. Do that 5 times and then take a breath and do it again. There's not really room for a thought to get in there. So it actually does slow your mind down. If you just do that and say, I'll do that like 20 times, pull over on the side of the road, you'll find that you'll slip and forget that you're meditating or forget that you're chanting and be gone for maybe a minute or 2 minutes and come back and go, wow. And even just a couple minutes of that is like a nap. I mean, you're getting like an hour-long nap. So you got to try it sometime. It's a remarkable thing.
Do you do a lot of meditating, Taylor?
I know, but I try, I have tried.
Yeah.
The getting my mind to slow down part is really hard. And it's interesting because I do drives and I do feel like it's weird because in a drive, it can feel like a meditation because you're kind of just focused on exactly what's happening around you. You know, you're
Mm-hmm.
not like
Mm-hmm.
on your phone and doing 800 things where you shouldn't be on your phone. You're just like looking at what's exactly in front of you and like focused on the road. And in a way that kind of can be like slightly meditative. I know
Yeah.
Victoria that works with us too. She does long drives as like a way to kind of like sort of just like be more present, and it
Mm-hmm.
is interesting in the era that we're in that it just sometimes just like whatever you can do to like help your mind turn off and just to be present is like that's just yeah, do whatever works for you, you know.
Yeah. When I was younger and my knees and back were in better shape, basketball was kind of like that. I play
Yeah.
basketball 3 4 times a week, and because you're just in movement
Yeah.
and you're just present, you're just playing basketball. And now
Yeah.
that I'm older, I've taken up golf. It's harder because you have to wait sometimes. You have to wait for
uh
the people in front of you, and then it takes you out of you. You know, I'm just trying to step up and swing the ball, and then you're waiting, and then you start thinking, oh, I'm trying to fix my slice, or I'm trying to do this. I want to put
yeah.
this here. I want to do this. I'm going to do this in this swing, and then all of a sudden your game has gone downhill because you're overthinking. And I'm always like, stop thinking, just play golf.
Yes,
But it's harder
yes.
because you're waiting and there's no. I like a fast paced meditation, indoor soccer or ultimate frisbee,
No, I love that.
sword fighting.
I love to do sports and stuff and like that. And that is a form of being in the presence and whatnot. But when
Yeah.
you're doing the type of meditation with TM or whatever, you are taking the transmission out of fourth or fifth gear, turning it into neutral and stopping thinking and thoughts for a period of time. And even 1 minute of not thinking is like the most regenerative thing you could ever imagine. So all
Yeah.
forms of meditation are good. Active meditations are too. But for me, it's like turning that brain off for just even 5 minutes or something is like a miracle for me every day.
Yeah, I noticed that a lot of religions have a form of, even if they don't call it meditation. Like the Catholics pray the Rosary,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
and that's a meditation. You're sitting there chanting,
Yeah.
rubbing your beads,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, taking your mind out of things, or focusing your mind on the glory of the oneness of the universe
Mhm.
is
Totally.
the thing.
It is.
Well, even just the art of wonder. I mean, that's even like kind of this thing that we're sort of like losing in its own way, because it's like in any second you can Google anything you want on your phone, and so you're like you kind of like don't have to wonder all the time anymore, you know, unless you sort of like kind of make that an active practice, because there used to be a lot more wonder, I feel like, in the world, and that can lead to just like your own mind sort of leading yourself to a conclusion, which I think is not always the best thing. I mean, obviously we all like to know things and be factually correct, but it's just like nice at times even just to add a little bit more of that to your day.
No, it's true. It's true. Wonder and awe. You know, I used to be the Google for my friends because I was the biggest nerd, and so they would call me and ask me random questions because either I knew it or I would go find out. I would call the library or I'd go find a book. I had encyclopedias and shit. And now my friends don't call me anymore. They just look it up on their phone, and I miss them.
Just
Sometimes
saying
they
you go
just.
to
Well,
the
I see all
library.
the books behind you. You look like you're an avid book reader.
I love to read books. That's also a form of meditation. Although someone said it's a form of disassociation, but I don't know. I'm building a whole movie in my brain when I read a book.
No, I
I'm
think it's,
casting the whole thing.
yeah, reading books is a beautiful thing, but you almost date yourself there in Gaia with the library, because which kid goes to a library anymore? They got the library right in their phone or computer. It's like, I can't think of a person, not a kid, anybody under 40 that even would think of going to a library. But for us,
People still go to libraries. I know
well,
kids who love libraries.
Yeah.
some, but not like we did. I mean,
No,
that was like, you went there to find that knowledge.
I spent all my time in the library. Like
Yeah.
all the librarians knew me in
Yeah.
all the different libraries.
Yeah.
I love a library. I love a bookstore, a library. Now that they don't charge fines anymore, I may renew my library card. That's the one thing I would buy books. That's why I buy books. People are like, you could go to the library. I'm like, no, because I might not give it back. I'm just not that way.
Yes.
All right. So it's better for me to have it, and then I can give it away. I can just like give somebody a book, or if somebody wants to. When people want to loan me a book too, they're like, "I'll loan you the book." I'm like, I should go buy my copy because you might not get it back from me because I'm weird about things.
Yeah.
I have a controversial question for you, Ngaio. Then, what do you
Okay.
feel about tablets? Like the tablets where you read the book?
I understand their use, and anything that helps people read more is great, but they don't smell the same, and you can't read them in
Yes.
the bathtub.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? Come on,
I'm
you get a
against
good
you
hot
too.
tub and a good book and a joint, bruh.
Yeah.
Call it a
good time.
day.
That's a day. That's a
Yeah.
day and a half. That's a great day. That's a great day, especially if it's a good mystery. Are
Yeah.
you guys reading anything good right now?
Yeah, I just got done reading, I go back and forth, mostly spiritual books, but I just read the book on Jimi Hendrix.
That's a
Uh,
spiritual book.
and well, no, well, yeah, it is. It's a cool book, but I also read the book about Led Zeppelin, Seth Rogen. I read Dave Grohl's book. I just got on a run of reading. I didn't do that much, but in the last couple of months, I've just got on a run of reading these superstars and their stories and stuff. But normally for me, it's more spiritual books about a lot of books about Mary Magdalene lately, about shamanic things in South America. I've been reading a lot of stuff with Deepak Chopra. It's usually spiritual books, but then I also like historical books, and then these books lately on a roll of all these superstars and seeing how they made it and what they did and what they're doing.
That's how you learn. That's
Yeah.
how you learn I should probably read more books from superstars. I read the Steve Martin story.
Wow.
That was a good one.
I like that too.
The Motley Crue biography.
Yeah.
That was hella interesting. That book was crazy.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
I need to read that one. Okay, that one is actually one that sounds real. I can only imagine that era of time, like before like camera phones and
Man,
I'm
I talk about
lots
that all
of
the
crazy
time.
stuff happened.
I tell people that all the time, like, you guys with all your cameras, legends can't happen if you have proof. The story has to be able to get
Right.
bigger later. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right? Maybe you got in a fight with 2 guys, but then 5 years from now it was like 6 guys. You know? 10 years from now, dude, he took on 20 dudes at that one bar. It was crazy. I was there. I saw it.
Yeah,
You know?
the
That's
legend.
legends, man. Legends. Let's
Mhm.
just go ahead and be legends. I mean, you guys have done some legendary shit. This is what, the 10th, 14th, 15th year of the Emerald Cup?
This is the 18th.
18th year. So the Emerald Cup is old enough to be drafted into the Army now.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's hard to even
The
imagine.
Emerald Cup has to pay taxes.
Oh gosh, tell us about it.
By the way, I should mention this is Chopping It Up with Ngaio, brought to you by juicyfields.io. Juicy Fields, check them out. Juicyfields.io. You can invest in the cannabis community worldwide. We thank them for their sponsorship. All right, we're back. The Emerald Cup is
Mhm.
gigantic now, and we're having some. I always say to people that it was easier to throw these sort of events when it was against the law.
Yeah,
It was.
the gray area. The gray area was a great era.
Man, you could just find a warehouse who was cool with it and then just do whatever you wanted. And now, you gotta fill out forms, and people can't sell. They can sell weed, but the weed they don't sell, they have to destroy. Or the sheriff's walking around making sure everybody, you can't hand out samples. It's so tough. What do we do about that?
Well, we've been fighting with the DCC after this last one with the harvest ball, because that was really the worst of the, it started off with the legalization that first year in 2017, and they were trying to make us take all the material off site each day and destroy everything on the tables. And it was like, then it got to the point where it's okay, Puffco can't let people try their dab rigs, even though it's just sharing, and the small farmers can't display stuff. And the whole thing is like, we sat down at the DCC and said, look, it's real simple. If you want to continue in this vein, you're not going to have a job, and we're not going to have a job, because nobody's going to want to come to these events. Because if they're not cool and laid back, and people are worried about getting hassled, and they can't smoke freely, and they can't hit a dab bar, and they can't see a plot product in a display case, then it's over. So they got it. They were a little overzealous last year. When we went legal, we had to go to 10 BCC, back then it was called, meetings to get events on the agenda, on the docket. And we did, and we really have taught them over the last few years. And we thought we'd really come to a great, understanding. But this year we had to go back and start all over again and work that with them. And we explained to them, not even just our event. Every small farmer needs a farmer's market in every town, like traditional agriculture, because that's how these small farmers make it in Santa Cruz and Sacramento and everywhere. They go to these farmers markets and they get direct access, and they make a couple $1,000 and they pay their bills. And we need those in every community, and we need a lot of events, because that's the only way you're going to get direct access for these small farmers and product makers to the consumers.
Right. And not up here in Sacramento, they want every event to be the High Times Cup. And I'm trying to tell them, like, sometimes you just want 100 people at a weed tasting party.
Yeah.
Right. That's like, those are the events that I throw. Like, I know you guys throw the big Emerald Cup and everything, but I throw like the Mayflowers event, where we got 10, 15 growers. Everybody pays a couple $100. You get some samples. There's some entertainment. There's some food. And we just sit around and we taste, we get all fancy in our weed pants. It's like a little mini judging thing.
That's
I used
great.
to throw events like that. And those are so hard. You can't really throw one of those in the regulated market right now. Like, I'm going to keep it super underground again. But now it makes it harder to even go to your grower buddies and be like, I'll give you some money I only need like half a pound. I need maybe a quarter pound, because we're gonna have a couple hundred people. Everybody's gonna get a gram or two. And it's so ridiculous. You have to fill out all the things. You got to do all the stuff. You got to have a small event license. You got to get the fucking city council. Why do I need to talk to the city council about a 200 people event?
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, we did 4 farmers markets up at Area 101 when they were still underground, and we had like 60 vendors. People all made 4, 6, 7,000 bucks. There were no licenses. It was like really, underground, but out in the open. And it's critical to get beyond this stuff. When you go to these farmers markets, they don't have that. They get their permits, everybody goes in, and you know what? They're letting people taste sauerkraut, and you can take a piece of the apple and you can test everything. And it's like, it's what makes them so special.
They throw out here in Sacramento and in LA and some other towns, they throw what do they call them? Sessions,
Yeah.
where it's like that. So if you have your medical letter, you can still get into these things, and it's like a farmer's market. They got everything out, and the prices are low, and the taxes are relatively non-existent. And the city is shooting itself in the foot by not regulating these and allowing these to be a regular, actual thing, and making it easy for people to do. And that's what we need. I'm with you. We need more farmers markets and more access and more. I think the problem is, and I talked about this. I was talking to Michael Backus a couple episodes ago. You can find it on wherever you get your podcast. Check it out, or on the YouTube. We were. Shit! I lost my whole train of thought. I must be high. I was.
Michael Backus. I always love trying to help people remember their thought. I'm like Michael Backus, and then before that, we were talking about farmers markets and sessions.
Well, my point is, I feel like the regulatory agencies are trying to push cannabis toward the tobacco model when they should be pushing cannabis toward the craft beer model or the winery model or the cigar club model. It's more like a cigar store where you go in, you buy your pipe tobacco, they open the big jar, you're like, oh, this has hints of cherry wood and things like that, and you can sit and smoke a pipe and chop it up with your homies. We need more of that, more social things. It's not, they just want to make it cigarettes, and it's not cigarettes, it's weed. It's a completely different vibe, man.
Yeah. Especially from a safety and consumer standpoint. It's if cannabis is tested in the standards of what testing regulations are like in California, there could be more pesticides on an organic raspberry that you buy at the grocery store than there is in cannabis right now in California, because our testing standards are so high. And so it's if you have people that are 21 and up and you have tested cannabis, what kind of danger are we talking about people getting into? Danger.
And also, why does everything have to be in the virtually impossible to open childproof packages? My booze isn't childproof. It's environmentally insensitive, and it's rude to stoners. What about people with infirmities or arthritis who can't open the bags to get to their medical cannabis?
That's me.
Those things.
Exactly. I was like, you're talking to one.
Yeah. I can't even open those things. And it's bizarre that the lengths. I understand the premise. You don't want kids eating a bunch of edibles and getting too high and stuff, but it's like you said, alcohol is not treated that way. You go in and
also, booze. Like my kids knew when they were little, they'd be like, Dad, are these the brownies we can eat? I'd be like, no, the ones on the top of the fridge you guys cannot eat. You have to eat the other ones that are in the fridge or out here. I made you guys brownies right over here. You just have to talk to your children and communicate with your children and let them know some things are for adults and some things are for children. And that's how it is, Gosh, it shouldn't be that hard to do, but everybody, they just panic. They just panic about weed. It is the weirdest thing to me.
Well, it's a way to tax and regulate and control it. The more regulations they have, the more these departments they have, then people can justify their jobs. Unfortunately, California is the most over-regulated and overtaxed state in the country. That's why Oracle's left. That's why all these companies are leaving. That's why Oklahoma's blowing up. That's why everybody else is doing well, but California.
Other way, I'm with it, but it's the wild, wild west out there. That shit is wild.
Have you been out there?
I have. I haven't been out there in 3 years, but last time I was there, it was definitely open. It was. It was great. And Oklahoma did the one thing they did right was they told all the cities and counties you cannot ban this. There's no bullshit. You have to figure out a way to let people have clubs and let people have cannabis, right? And I think that is one of the biggest problems that California is facing is if you live in Citrus Heights or if you live, in Barstow, you have to drive to Bakersfield or you have to drive to Sacramento or you got to drive if you live in Concord, you got to drive to the Bay Area to get your weed. You might as well just keep a weed man at that point. The prices are going to be
Yeah.
better, and the weed will be just as good.
Well, that was part of 64. They had to make compromises to get those leagues.
But did they?
Well, that's what they said. And so what they did was they gave them that. But you're right. That's the biggest problem right now because we had 12,000 dispensaries at one time. Now you're
Yeah.
down to 1,000. And it's kind of like if you only had one liquor store in every town, then it'd be very difficult to get into that store and you'd have to be paying some taxes or some under the table stuff to get on the shelves. And
There's
it's like,
shelving fees now, like a grocery store.
yeah. And if you had 15 liquor stores in every town, then all of a sudden, all these small farmers and all these little niche product makers all have a chance to get on those shelves. So,
Right.
the
Right. People
dispensaries,
could open their own little boutique dispensary. It doesn't always have to be the big mass produced guys all the time.
well, yeah, because what happens is in Florida, I just got back from Florida, the Cookies spent $31 million to get their licenses. Farmtown, or the Farmtown Holdings, they spent $31 million themselves to get these permits. And it's like, what kind of diversity is there? What hope is there for a small farmer or, anybody that's not power-based to be able to get a dispensary or a license?
And that also leads to bad weed because now the commercial pressure to get product rapidly on the shelves is immense. And so now you're not going to cure it for as long as it takes. You're going to grow only things that are big yielders, big fast yielders, right? Nobody's got time for a 14-week sativa when you got to get $31 million back into the head. You got to get $60 million because you told all those guys you're going to give them a crazy return on their money. So now you got to come up with $60 million in 5 years and you're going to sell shitty weed to do it. And it's just, it's a shame. It's a shame.
Well, that's what's happened here in California. It all becomes the highest THC for the price. And so all these people are competing that. And that's what we're talking about with the cup, breaking it up into terpene profiles, getting people to understand that they need to reach for something that they're drawn to, the smell, the taste that they're looking for, rather than going in there. And in most cases, people who don't smoke much getting kind of paranoid and anxiety ridden because they're smoking a 33%.
Too much THC.
And they're not even a balance of cannabinoids.
Yeah. I say that all the time. Also, has anything over 20% ever won the Emerald Cup?
Never. Well, over 20%, but the highest THC has never won the Emerald Cup. And so basically it's always been a balance. You've been part of that. It's always been a balance of cannabinoids that basically people are looking for.
My favorite weeds generally come in at 17 to 19% THC with a crazy terpene profile.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
And some people will call that mids. Oh, you're smoking mids. No, dog. I'm smoking flavor and effect. Right?
Yeah, totally.
I'm trying to be giggly or horny or sleepy. And the terpenes are what's going to happen for that. Sometimes all at the same time. And the terpenes are what are going to give me that. It's not the THC that's going to give you those effects that you want. And I don't know how we educate people to this, but that's everybody just wants the highest THC. And also, when it's super high THC, you can't even smoke a whole joint anymore. Now you take 2 hits and you're high and a little anxious.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what I was gonna say though. It's like someone saying like, oh my gosh, like I love like 151. Like it's my favorite alcohol. Like I love to like take a shot of 151. It's like, whoa, you just want to like just go right to it and just get like as drunk as possible because like you don't want to like enjoy the effects or like the flavor. Like it's like why a nice wine, you like that's the one thing I miss about alcohol is wine, because like wine can be like complex and nice and you get this like body high. But that's why I found like edibles, if you find like a low dose edible, and especially the beverages, I feel like you can kind of get that same like body relaxed feeling that doesn't really go like super like far into the like edible high where sometimes you get like really paranoid. If you just go with like a 2 to 5 milligram beverage, you're like, this was great. It's like having 2 glasses of wine,
I love those 5 milligram seltzers and fake beers and stuff they put out, especially on a hot day. You can drink 1 or 2 of those, just be chilling on the porch. It's so nice. I'm a fan.
So
I'm
nice.
a fan of all
I can
that,
drink
but
5 or 6. That's what I like about it.
Well, of course you can. Tim. You can
No,
also do acid
I
and ecstasy after being up all day.
Yeah.
No, what I mean.
So, not everybody. You're an outlier.
No. What I mean though, Ngaio, is that like we were down at the after hours party last year, and that little 5 milligram or 2.5 milligram, I can drink 4 or 5 and only be at 15 to 20 milligrams. I can't do much edibles because I get too high. And so if I'm drinking a 10 or 15 milligram edible or drink, and I drink 4 of those and I'm doing 60 milligrams, then I'm wasted. I just want to get that summertime hot buzz where I can just have a nice little relaxing thing.
Nice little buzz, man. Just want to change your perceptions a little bit, walk around with a goofy smile on your face and have no worries.
Yep.
We have
That's
to
why I
explain
think
this
too,
to
like
people.
beverages are so, it's like the most exciting part of the market in certain ways is because like with an edible, like when you eat like a 10 milligram edible, it's like you are ingesting that all at the same time. So it's like your
Yeah.
body's digesting that 10 milligrams. So when you're doing a beverage, it's almost like you're like low dosing that 5 milligrams over like an hour or something. So it's kind of like it hits you a little bit differently because it's not just all at once. It's like you're just taking a little bit at a time. And I
You're
feel like it
sipping that
makes it more
cocktail.
approachable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of this new fledgling beverage industry. There's a couple companies that are putting out like
Yeah.
Moscow Mules
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
style carbonated beverages and all this stuff, and generally those are all pretty good. And
There are some gross ones though. You got to be careful.
ugh, too much stevia.
Yes, too much distillate.
Yeah. Yeah, but some of those are good. Some of those are very good.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
Taylor's become a real beverage person. And so she's gotten
Mhm.
me onto that now. And now
Yeah.
I'm like right there, man. I love drinking those like 2.5 to 5 milligram beverages where I can just drink a 6 pack and sit there and just, well, I can feel like I'm not getting too buzzed. Because I like to
Yeah.
drink beverages and I
Yeah.
just can drink
Yeah.
them too.
And you get to stay hydrated. It combats the cotton mouth, which
Yeah.
you get
Yeah.
from all the THC. So that's always
Very true.
nice. Now, are you guys planning to expand this Emerald Cup? Because I would really like to see a border skirmish. Like, can we have California versus Oregon? Can we have Oregon versus Washington? Right? Can we all just meet up in like Ashland or Medford and Wairika and go back and forth and smoke their weeds and see who's got the best one? How does the Oregon Jägermeister hold up against a really well crafted fruit gas thing from Humboldt County? These are the questions I have.
Well, we moved to LA with the thought that eventually we'll have federal legalization within the next 2 years, and then we'll open it up. Whether it's regionals or whether it's a nationwide cup or whatever else, we're going to basically take them on just like everybody else does. So, and eventually worldwide, we'll have to figure out how to bring in the international competition.
Do you think federal legalization is 2 years away? I know Flo Canna bet the farm that federal legalization was right around the corner, but we all thought federal legalization was around the corner when Clinton got elected. We thought federal legalization was around the corner when Obama got elected. We thought federal legalization might have been a thing under Trump as a way to find people. And yet and still, here we are, still fighting.
Yeah,
What's
but
the plan?
have you seen pair.org? If you go look up pair.org, it's a consortium of companies like Molson and some of the biggest insurance
Pear,
companies.
spell that for me. P-A-I-R?
PEAR, like pear, like the fruit. Pair.org, you can go look at a consortium of companies that have put together $250 million to spearhead the legalization. And they're the biggest Fortune 500 companies in the country. And they're intent on seeing this within the next 2 years. And right now, the Republicans are putting something forward. The only reason why they're arguing with the Democrats is because the Republicans want to have 1/4 of the taxes the Democrats want to, or they could really get together on it right now. Everybody knows it has to happen in Ngaio because the rest of the world is taking it over. Colombia, Israel, Canada. If we don't get in there right now and get this done. And so what happens in our country is big business and money finally is coming in and looking at it and going, we have to do this or we're going to be left behind.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? First of all, you can learn more about international cannabis if you go to internationalcbc.com and check out the International Cannabis Business Conference series. We're going to be in Berlin, we're going to be in Barcelona, and we're going to be in Zurich this year. I'm the MC for the International Cannabis Business Conferences. They're
Congrats.
awesome. Shout out to Alex Rogers and the whole team. They do a great job. We do a great job. Because you're correct. The international market is starting to boom. There's going to be a big conference in Cape Town, South Africa. South Africa is getting into it. Malta's into it. Uruguay's into it. Israel's into it. Germany is about to legalize weed. Zurich is maybe or Switzerland's maybe 5 years away. Portugal's already in the mix. Spain is coming around. So you're correct. The international world is starting to push the United States a little more. But the challenge, of course, that I see is and I don't think there's any way around it, but we're taking what was a really nice decentralized industry and turning it into a giant commodity, which weed is a giant commodity. But as you say, Molson's coming in, Marlboro wants to get involved. All these guys, they're going to create giant barriers to entry. Instead of $31 million to have your little store in Florida, it's going to cost you $131 million. And where's that leave me and you?
You know what? Just like the microbreweries and the vineyards, eventually the finest craft small farmers are always going to have a niche.
Are they going to allow it though? That's the thing, right? You think Marlboro wants somebody to be growing niche cannabis when they can do
Well,
their own thing?
well, they won't have any choice. I mean, you're going to have the small farmer, but not that many of them. I mean, you got to look at it. If you had 10,000 farmers in the triangle, I was talking with Kevin Jodry, there's probably going to be 100 that actually have a brand that's viable of the people that are like Ridgeline, Mark Greenshock, maybe
Yes.
Swami. You're talking about the very best, the best. Yes, those guys, Turpogs, all of them, they'll be in there and they'll be able to compete. But the people that are not that good, that are going to try to compete with those big farms, don't have a chance. That's what's happening right now. We have an extinction event going on because unless you're a AAA farmer, you're not going to make it. And then they will be taken out. So you're not going to have nearly the amount of farmers left as this all goes on. But we do live in a capitalist society. It's a commodity and big business is coming in. I tell people in Ngaio, you know what? Even though I don't like a lot of what happened with 64, we're still, because of California going down, we're going across the country and the world right now. Cannabis has taken its rightful place at the head of the table. It's leading right into psychedelics and that renaissance. And we're going to heal the planet and humanity through cannabis and through plant medicines. And that's what needs to happen, regardless of what people individually make financially. It has to start with what's best for the people.
Listen, the prices are definitely higher in California than they should be, but I gotta say, smoking a joint in downtown Sacramento the other day, and the sheriff walked right past me, and he just gave me a heads up. He's like, "Hey, what's up?" And I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it. There was no problems. You smell like weed when you're in the coffee shop and the cops walk in. There's no problems, right? Everything's cool. It's great for the blood pressure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What we just need to go with it, though, is we just need all those dispensaries and all those outlets. Even I'm saying, I don't know, not that they're great, but even Amazon, once you can order a AAA fire from Mark Greenshock for $120 on Amazon, then the price, because what's happened is, you're right, the prices haven't come down. Even though you got sun grown going for $300 a pound and mixed light going for $400, you're still paying $400 in those dispensaries. So it's not fair.
It's not fair. The prices have gone down for the growers, but they haven't come down for the consumers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so where's all that money going?
Has to go away.
What's that, Taylor?
Oh, I said the cultivation tax has to go away. I mean, that's the saddest part is that, I mean, we lived during this glorious era of cannabis, and it's just I almost don't want to say that it's fully gone, because I still kind of have this little piece of hope that I'm maybe we'll go back there someday, but it is so crazy to think about where the industry is right now, and seeing people have to sell their farms or not be able to make it because they can't afford to cultivate anymore. It's cultivating cannabis is a hard job. It is a lot of work to put your whole life into it. And so if someone loves to do that and they can't find a way to sustain their farm on it, it's sad. And so there's this duality there of feeling like we all want to not be incarcerated for smoking cannabis, and that is a really strong thing. We want to make sure that people that are incarcerated currently get their records expunged and they get out of jail. But there's also that part, I think, where we want to see as many people succeed that have been in it for a long time. These legacy operators deserve to have a place at the table, and so we're hopeful.
Hope springs eternal. That's all we can do. Work hard.
Yeah.
And going back to, you're discussing this weed legalization is definitely, and I've noticed a lot of the more hardcore radical cannabis activists, now that cannabis is somewhat legal and regulated, but more than it has been, are definitely making a push towards psychedelics. You see, we have the Church of Mushrooms in Oakland. MAPS is getting big into it. You guys are definitely pushing, whether it's entheogenic or whatever, psychedelic research and more of these things, and opening up those pathways where it's not just big pharma drugs who just mask symptoms and not work toward mental cures or brain chemistry. So how do you see that? Do you see 5 to 10 years where you can also go buy a microdose of LSD or some actual mushrooms in the store too? I mean, you can buy mushrooms in Amsterdam.
Oh, no, it'll be sooner than that. We got Decrim California coming up with the initiative this year. If it doesn't pass, it's going to happen within the next year or two. It's going to come in so quick. The research, it's interesting on the psychedelics because of John Hopkins and Harvard and Purdue, the research has just blown up and they're just indisputably proving that, for anxiety, depression, PTSD, and all these things, there's no disputing that. What I like about the psychedelic thing was that, you basically had the people in the mountains of Emerald Triangle and around California going up to grow up there, the back to landers. And what they dealt with was a bunch of basically white redneck loggers for the most part and conservative people. So it wasn't a place for people of color. It wasn't a place for women to really go into because it was dangerous and they're going to get, either in jail or get their asses kicked. So primarily the cannabis manufacturing and production got done by white males. What the good thing about the psychedelics is you got a black man, intelligent, articulate guy named Reggie Harris who's doing the Hyphy Cup in Oakland, and he's spearheading conferences all over. I love Reggie.
Please introduce me.
Yeah, I evangelize for him all the time. He just did a conference in Colorado. He was out speaking at the Florida Cup, and you got this dude who is like an articulate, intelligent man who's spearheading the psychedelic mushroom cup in the country, in the world. And along with that, you've got Daniel Negrin, who's a woman out of San Francisco Psychedelic Society. You've got Bear, who's a female, a woman of color, who's a mycologist and a geneticist. So you got a really wonderful diversity going on in psychedelics that wasn't there for a long time in cannabis. It's just now coming around. And I really feel very good about that. And Reggie, and he's got a lab in Oakland. They're doing a new cup right now that they're taking entries through February. And it's amazing.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
How do you judge mushrooms?
Oh, we thought
it would take like 4 months because you can't do them every day. Like you have to do one entry and then I need to wait a couple weeks and let that one settle. Yes. Then you have to do another one. Like I can't do mushrooms 2 days in a row. Like, when I used to follow the dead, I would do mushrooms maybe the Friday night and it would be great. And then Saturday I'd be like, okay, man, I'm gonna do that again. And I would take them and my body would be like, nope, we're not getting high off of that right now. We're just gonna chill. We did that yesterday and it's not gonna really affect you like you think it might.
Well, they're doing it off potency and the other elements in testing. So they're using a lot of testing for the mushrooms right now. Okay. And they're also doing visuals for the quality of the product itself. I'm with you, Ngaio, as far as them getting and doing a contest and having people objectively try to decide how you get high off that. You know what? Look, I tell everybody, they're like, when are you going to do a mushroom cup? I was in Cannadelic and they asked me again, they said, why aren't you going to do a mushroom cup? And I said, no, this really incredible young man back here, Reggie Harris, go talk to him because he's doing the Hyphy Cup and he's figuring all that out. We'll just stick to cannabis. Okay.
Listen, because I think we can all agree that psychedelic mushrooms don't always have the best flavor. You hardly ever eat one of those. Oh, this is delicious. What is that? Strawberries?
It's got earthy notes. Yeah, exactly. Is it chocolate?
Right.
Yeah.
What is that? Fecal? Maybe fecal little cow manure.
Yeah, but you know what they're doing? They're already going so quick because of the research that they're now extracting the mycelium out of the mushrooms, and they're making it so you don't get sick at all. And then they're using the extractions to go into products. So now they're already coming up with the microdoses and the edibles and all the different gummies and whatnot, and you don't get sick. And it's all very dose specific. And they're actually finding out the different strains. Do you know that they add 100, almost 200 varieties of mycelium? And now because people are breeding them, they're going to have just like cannabis, you're going to have like 1,000 different strains of mushrooms in the next 2 years. And they all do
penis envy dream. Blue penis.
Yeah. Well, they've got, the blue meanie or something. I forget what it is. But they're all different things that they do for you. Some make you laugh. Some are more psychedelic. Some are, and so it's really the research coming into that, which Reggie's doing. He has a lab and their whole team is really incredible because now they're going to do like cannabis where they're going to really identify the other parts of mycelium and what it does to you and why you laugh and why you get psychedelic and what happens. So in the next few years, you're going to see incredible research going on. But in Florida, at that Cannadelic conference, there were doctors all over Florida that are already pushing for legalization of psilocybin in Florida right now because of the medical aspects.
Well, we're old enough to remember that. Was it the 80s when MDMA first showed up? And it was hailed as like a psychiatric breakthrough or a psychological breakthrough. They were using it for a lot of PTSD and people with mental health issues, and it was showing a lot of promise. And then all of a sudden, people started thinking of it as a party drug, and then it got banned and prohibited.
Well, what they did
Totally.
was
That's actually what Rick Doblin got started with MAPS, is because it was like the year, right? He was getting ready to graduate from college in the year. It was like right before they banned MDMA, and he was like excited about using it as like a research tool. And so it was like one of the reasons why he went on to start MAPS, is just because it's like why ban certain substances before knowing what they're actually capable of? Because even with depression and mushrooms, it's so interesting, because could you imagine, instead of like, if you suffer from depression, or you are even having just like, instead of like an actual diagnosed a version of depression, if you're just even having like a depressive episode, it's like, what if you were prescribed a psychedelic that you could just take it in a low dose in the short term with therapy, and that could alleviate you of your depressive symptoms, as opposed to taking a daily prescribed prescription every day for like years and years. It's just like, I think that it's not about getting people on. Some people need prescriptions, and so it's not necessarily to ban all prescriptions, but it's just saying that, like, if you can take something else that's a temporary fix that also like has permanent effects on your well-being, then why not try that approach too?
But Taylor, how can the pharmacological industry make billions of dollars if you
Yeah,
don't have to take one of 5 pills every day? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Where's the profit?
I know. That's what sucks, is when profits come above the well-being of people, that's when we start to steer off of our path. We got to get back on the path, because it's people over profits.
Yeah,
I say it
it's
all the
pretty
time.
simple. What they did was, we had a psychedelic and cannabis revolution going on in the 60s and 70s. And they formed the DEA, they formed the FDA, and they realized this was not going to be good for pharmaceutical companies or for the DEA. So it was really a simple thing. They created the minimum mandatory prison sentences. They built the private prisons. They flooded.
They sold crack in the neighborhoods.
Hey, look, cocaine. They came to me and they told me, they showed me some of the best pot ever, and they said, we're going to lose all the tie, all the hash, everything. They're going to take it all out, and they're going to replace it with cheap cocaine. And cocaine was a rich person's drug at $100 a gram. And he said, you watch what they do. And in the next 2 years, they took out every hash and tie load and Mexican load. They brought all that cheap crack in. They put all the inner cities and minorities into prisons long-term for that. They took all of us up in the mountains and took us in long-term prisons for growing the pot. And they wiped out that industry. And then they brought all that crack and cocaine and heroin and crap in there. And that was, what? We didn't go down in Ngaio. The thing about it is that the cannabis people fought through that for 30 years. And they're going to write history books about the fact that they couldn't get rid of us, and that we finally wore them out. And with that, now we're wearing them out on psychedelics. And now we're going to have that renaissance that we should have had in the 80s. We're going to go back to that and do it now in the next 15 years.
From your lips to God's ears. This is Chopping It Up with Ngaio. I'm sitting here with Tim and Taylor Blake. Shout out to juicyfields.io for sponsoring this incredible show. We are having a great time and a good conversation, and I really appreciate it. We're actually starting to run out of time, believe it or not. It goes so fast. It's been like an hour already. Is there anything you guys, I know.
I'm like, get Tim going on psychedelics. He could just, this is his
That's his thing. That's his thing. That's his wheelhouse.
No, we haven't even gotten to ETs yet. What do you mean?
I know, that was the whole plan. My whole plan was like, I'm going to talk to Tim about aliens and extraterrestrials, and we'll have to do another one, and we can just talk about that for an hour. We'll do one after the cup for sure. Now, the Emerald Cup is May 13th and 14th in Los Angeles. You can go to theemeraldcup.com for more information about that. It's also on the Instagram at the Emerald Cup and on Twitter at the Emerald Cup. I don't know if you guys have a TikTok or a Snapchat. TikTok hates weed. You could probably get a Snapchat. What else?
Tim does have a TikTok.
Tim Blake has a TikTok?
We are accepting entries. Yeah. No, just joking. He doesn't have a TikTok. But we are accepting entries for the competition through February 25th. We did extend our deadline. Okay. So if you are interested in entering, you have until the 25th to do so. And then, we're going to do the award show on the 14th, and we can't wait to see who wins this year.
Fantastic.
First place.
And if you have any fallouts in the flower judging, judges place, let me know. I love to judge the flowers.
Yeah. Okay. I was actually asking Vicky. I was like, did Ngaio apply to be a judge again? Okay, because we need to bring him back.
We do need to bring him back. He's a good judge. I think I've skipped the deadline by accident, and now I'm just trying to use my influence and pull producers to try to get into the thing.
Well,
You are my favorite stage partner beyond Tim, of course.
Oh, Taylor, it has been an
That's
honor
it.
and a joy and a pleasure to work with the Emerald Cup all these years. I did a couple back at the Area 101. Not even the host. I just showed up and did jokes with Jack Rikers and them back in the day. And then
right.
I think my first hosting was maybe at the Mateel Center in Redway when it snowed that one time.
Huh?
The year
10
before
years
everybody
ago.
moved to Santa Rosa. How many?
10
many
years,
years
that
ago?
was 2012.
Wow, it goes so fast. It goes so fast. And so now
Well,
here
you'll
we
be on
are.
the stage with us again. We'll all be doing that together, and we're definitely trying to figure that out. You know, it is so challenging because I watched them with the judges. All the judges, we ended up with like hundreds of people that want to judge that keep telling us that we didn't let them judge, that we're letting the same people back, that we've got to open it up, that we got to do this, we've got to do that. How do we get them in there? We don't have enough women. We don't have enough of this. People from Southern California. It becomes
Yeah.
the biggest puzzle in the world. So
Yeah.
Taylor will have to
It's-
figure that out. I told her we were going to have to figure out a way to get you back in there, but no
It's
matter
it's
what,
got to be a royal pain in the ass, and it's also, I think my first year judging, I was a little overwhelmed. I didn't realize, I was just like, oh yeah, man, I know my weed flavors. I can smoke weed. You have to smoke a lot of weed, like constantly. You have to clear your whole schedule for almost a month to be able to do it at the level to which it needs to be done. And I was ready the second and third years. The first year, I was definitely kind of caught by surprise a little bit, but it's
You were
and I
judging
wanna
like
say
the,
that-
the biggest years. Those were like the biggest years that we had of entry. So we were like, here's 700 grams.
Oh my
Try each
God.
one and let us know what you think.
each one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I gotta say, I've judged a few things, and I feel like the Emerald Cup is the fairest and most transparent. You guys really do a really good job of making sure that the weed speaks for itself, and it's not any
Thank
corporate
you.
pressure. Because I know people who don't win are always going to be like, "Oh, it's rigged," or "It's this," or "It's that." You're like, no, your weed just didn't really, and it's not, And the thing about the Emerald Cup too that makes it so challenging is, I think of the 3 years I've judged and the maybe 1,000, 1,200, 1,300 samples I tried, only one was bad. Right? I remember one that was just horrible, like it tasted like fish fertilizer. Everything else, the worst one was like, man, that's pretty good weed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's hard. It's hard because the levels, the care, the cure, everything is everyone is so good at it. People are definitely turning in their best work. And it's got to be hard when you turn in your best work and you come in 115th. But it's still really good, man. It's not a knock. It's not a knock on you. It's just a tough competition. It's like being in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Or winning the US Open. You gotta beat a lot of people. It's hard.
Yeah. If you make top 20, you've really accomplished something, because
If you make top 50, you've accomplished something. Like you worked your ass off to be in the top 50 in the entire state of California, which people don't always think that that's impressive. That's impressive, dog.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
It is.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Well, thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for
coming
having
on
us. Yeah.
Oh no, the pleasure's all mine. This is Chopping It Up with Ngaio. Get it wherever you get your podcast, or find us on the YouTube, or do those other things. Shout out to juicyfields.io. Juicyfields.io, a fantastic way to invest in the global cannabis industry. And that's it for today. We appreciate you guys so much. And we'll see you in LA. We'll probably see you sooner than that. I'm going to come up to Minot sooner or later, maybe next month. All right. Take care.